Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Albion Angle podcast. I'm joined by Teddy again today. How are you?
I am good, Archie. How are you?
I'm good. It's a big podcast today. It's the season analysis podcast.
It's also the first one
Which
we've done in a while due to
yeah, very
everything going on. There's been a lot going on with everything. So we've not really been able to record for a while. However, we are back now. We're here today, and it is a big one because it is reviewing pretty much everything from February onwards, reviewing the season as a whole, and just giving you lot a little bit of what you want to hear. Uh, you know, on how we
yes.
think about things.
But first, it is what might be deemed the most important part of the podcast season. It is the podcast awards.
Oh yeah,
Um, Firstly, we're going to do fan of the season, which is where we pick out someone who we think for the club has been a very good fan across the season. We're then
yeah.
going to do podcast fan of the season. So we are going to pick out of the listeners we know who we think has been the biggest fan of the podcast. We're then going to do game of the season. We're going to pick our favourite game of the season. And just decide why. It might not be the favourite game of the season. It might be the most pivotal, the most important game of the season.
Yeah,
We're then going to do most improved player of the season. We're going to look at a player who maybe wasn't as good last year and now is amazing. And the final award we will do is the all-important player of the season.
yeah.
So we're going to start with fan of the season. Well, I've actually got 5 nominations for this
5.
award.
I've got one in my head, and I'm sticking with that one. But anyway, you go.
So the first one I'm going to do is for Ollie Cooper, who this year, I think it was his first time going 100%. So went to every single game, didn't miss one across the season. Obviously, I know a few people who have done it, like, Jack Albion, but he does it all the time, so he don't count anymore. But I think this was Ollie's first time, so one nomination goes to Ollie, and the next 4 are actually a group of people. And I'm going to give it to the Beals family. That is Kev, Joe, Alex, and Rowan, who live in, I think it's Morpeath, like just north of Newcastle. And they pretty much get to every single home and away game. They're top tier in terms of season ticket points. They have been for quite a while, but another very impressive season from the Beals Northumberland contingent. They've been able to get to a lot of games, I think a few midweek ones as well at the Amex, which is a
Really
very
impressive. Yeah.
long stretch from Newcastle. So they are my 5 nominations for fan of the season: Ollie Cooper, Joe Beals, Alex Beals, Rowan Beals, and Kev Beals.
Nice, nice. You did actually mention my nomination, but I feel like, in my opinion, it could only be one man this year. I know Jack's done 100% as a lot of the time. However, this was the year he completed the 92 alongside doing a full set of Brighton games, and I think he got to most of the women's games as well. So,
Oh, I
in my
forgot about how
opinion,
he did the 92.
yeah, in my opinion, there is only one answer for this, and I give my fan of the season award to Jack Albion Stevenson. Complete the
Oh yeah,
92.
if any of you want an award, like an actual award,
Yeah,
we'll get you a trophy. We got a little away
yeah,
end.
little group of them.
Kev, Alex, Joe, Rowan, Cooper, and Jack. Well done, boys. Round of applause. Well done.
Top effort this year, boys.
Okay, so now we are on to podcast fan of the season. Now I've only got one for this one, and I'm going to let Teddy go first.
My podcast fan of the year goes to Ollie Barnett of Southampton. He, at the start, when the podcast first came out, he was very open on his social media channels about how he thought the podcast was and how impressed he was by it. I do see he does still message me about listening to other episodes that we've done, and every time there's an episode comes out, he'll message me and talk to me about it. And I just think that for the fact that there is someone who supports a team not even in the same league as Brighton, who is showing that much engagement and that much support and positivity towards the podcast, he, in my opinion, is the podcast fan of the year. So yeah, Ollie Barnett of Southampton, you've got
Thank
my
you,
podcast fan of the
Ollie.
year.
Now, my nomination is a Brighton fan, and I genuinely think this man is like number one fan of the podcast. I was speaking to him the other day. It was on my birthday, actually. I was speaking to him. And this isn't just like a one-off thing. He speaks to me about it all the time. He'll normally go, "Hello, how are you? How's the podcast?" He's a big fan of the podcast. He listened from episode 1 to now. It is super. Eddie Murphy, I'm going to give podcast fan of the season to. So
Well
there we go.
in,
We've
Eddie.
got 2 podcast fan of the seasons, Ollie Barnett of Southampton and Eddie Murphy. Okay, so there are fans and podcast fans of the season. We're now moving on to the actual team, and we're going to go with game of the season. Now, we can only pick one.
Right, so I'm going to go through a couple of honourable mentions before telling you the game I think is the game of the year. If you're on about importance and games which turned things around for us, you can't look past Brentford in February. We were on an absolutely terrible run of form. I mean, dreadful run of form. We'd won once in 15 in the Premier League, twice in 16 in all comps. We were losing to teams around us. We were losing to Palace, and we conceded late goals, and it was a stinking run of form where we just looked like we were dropping like a stone. And then it came to Brentford, a team who were, at the time being described as pushing for Champions League qualification. We rock up to the G-Tech, beat them 2-0. It was just before my birthday. It was quality. I've not picked that one, though. I could have also gone with Chelsea at home, the 3-0. I couldn't make that game due to being in Manchester, and it was midweek. However, watching it on television, it was complete and utter dominance. I've never seen us that one-sided in a game against another Premier League team in a long time. But I've not picked that either. The game I have gone for is, in fact, Chelsea away in September. Brighton of Albion were 1-0 down at half-time. Chelsea get a red card early in the second half. We score in the 77th, 92nd and 101st minute to win the game 3-1. And the limbs that day were an absolute joke. So my game of the season is Chelsea away in September.
Yes. Do you know, if I was going from a fan perspective, I would agree with you. But I actually think the game of the season was Sunderland away.
Yeah. Okay, I can see
And the reason I think it was Sunderland away is not just from a fan experience. It was an amazing day out, and I thoroughly enjoyed Sunderland. I actually thought it was quite a nice place, and the people of Sunderland were very nice. I thought that was the first Brighton game I'd seen in a long time where we played a very good team and we just mastered the basics.
Mm.
We didn't throw it away at the end. It always felt, there were bits where it was nervy, but it always felt under control. And I feel like that's something we didn't have a lot during the season in the last 1.5 years. But I feel like Sunderland, which is a extremely difficult place to go, as we've seen for some teams, we just went there, did the basics, kept it nice and simple, and ran away with a smash and grab 1-0 win. And I think we're going to have to do a lot of that next season, where we're playing Thursday, Sunday. If we want to get points in the league, we're going to have to do what we did at Sunderland. So my game of the season is Sunderland away.
Nice. I can completely agree with you from what you're basing it off of, but obviously I went off a fan point of view, and I do think that Chelsea game was impossible to beat from a viewership sort of experience, as you like. But yeah, 2 great games there, and if you disagree with us or you have any ideas to add of your own, please make sure you use the comment sections on YouTube and Spotify to project your own opinions towards us.
Okay, so one more award, which is scheduled before Player of the Season, and we're going to go with Most Improved Player of the Season. Teddy, take it away.
My most improved player of the season. There is a few options you could throw out here. Bart Verbruggen is an option. I mean, this year he's really stepped up in a few games. All admittedly, he has also cost us a few points with some silly mistakes at other points in the year. But I think all in all, he has really stepped his levels up this year and really sort of shown that he is pivotal to Brighton getting points. So he's one person I could put forward towards it. I think Lewis Dunk last year, there was calls for him to be taken out of the team for Webster, but this year he's been our best defender out of the three. So for me, Lewis Dunk has really stepped it up another level at the ripe old age of 34 or whatever it is. But my most improved player of the season, the player I think who has really shown a difference between where they were last season and this season, is Diego Gomez. Now, obviously, people will say that he's not been that important to how Brighton play this year and how he's been played out of position or whatever. But I do think that in terms of output, last year he scored his first goal for the club on the final day of the season at Spurs. This year, especially in early rounds of the Cup, he was pivotal for us getting through in games. He scored 6 goals in 2 games for Brighton in the Carabao Cup, and he has earned us some points in really key Premier League games this year. He scored against Forest, he scored against Burnley as well. He just basically did things right to get us points this year, and for me, I do think he's really stepped up a level from last year. So yeah, I'd go Gomez.
I think Diego Gomez is a very good shout. One which not a lot of people agree with, as you said, but a very good shout. Now, I wanted to give this award to Ferdy, but I feel like because he was injured last season, this is like his first season.
Oh, yeah, it's his first full season because we didn't really get a judgment of him for last year.
So I'm not going to go with Ferdy. I am going to go, actually, I do feel like his importance this year is being quite important than previous years. And this is another honourable mention, but actually, James Milner, I feel like in his final year in professional football, this has been one of his best in terms of he's really been able to show off his leadership off the pitch, which is something which we're definitely going to miss next year and something we're going to need to replace pretty quickly. We were quite lucky when Lallana left. Milner was here. Obviously, I think they played 1 year together before they went. So it's something we're going to have to, be thinking about this summer, because as much as Welbeck is an amazing player and an amazing leader, he can't do it on his own as well as Lewis Dunk. We're going to need to try and find another James Milner or Lallana. But I do feel like James Milner really stepped up this year when it was needed, on and off the pitch, which is important. However, my most improved player of the year, I feel like this is a player who has solidified himself in the 11, which is always impressive for a player to do when they're not always in the 11, is Jack Hinshelwood. I feel like we've seen him play in a lot of different positions throughout his whole time at Brighton. When he first played Athens away, I think he was playing at right back. And then this season, he's been absolutely unbelievable in the 10 role. I think he's really stepped up to the task this season. Obviously, he's still a very young player, and the quality which he has now as a young player and being able to play everywhere is just amazing. And I can only see him getting better from here. I can't see him getting worse.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to give it to Jack Hinshelwood, and maybe next season he might be player of the season. But from when he scored that double at Tottenham, people started to get excited about him. They were excited about him because he's a young player. They then got excited about him because he was like look, like this guy could actually be a good player. And now we're seeing he's a good player. So you can see him going up the ladder,
Yeah,
basically. So I'm going to give it to Jack Hinchelwood.
nice.
Before we do player of the season, are there any other awards you'd like to throw in? This award is kind of not an award, but it is. It's strange. Most pivotal moment of the season. So a moment where you thought either this was a huge wake up call. So for example, like Palace at home, huge wake up call, or it could be a moment where you thought the switch flicked. So like Brentford away, like you mentioned earlier. However, I'm not going to mention a game. I think the most pivotal moment of the season was the return of Pascal Gross. If we didn't have Pascal Gross, we wouldn't be in the Conference League come the end of the season. We wouldn't have even been in a European conversation come the end of the month. And I know Pascal's first few games were like the Fulham away, Everton at home, where we were still making sloppy mistakes. But if you look at the Everton game, we pulled Pascal Gross off and it all went wrong. It was like taking the conductor out of the orchestra almost. And when we go on to player of the season, I know he's only been here half the season, which is why I'm not going to give it to him. But if he was here the whole season, he would have won that award 100%.
Oh, easily, yeah.
For half a season, he has been an absolutely unbelievable important player. And ultimately, he turned the season around, gave him a month, settled in. He raised the morale, started from where he left off, I think. And so, yeah, the most pivotal moment of the season was Pascal Gross signing back from Borussia Dortmund.
Right, my most pivotal moment of the season, I am going to look at it a bit differently than you, and I'm going to look at it in terms of the table. So, on the final day of the season, were we 1 point ahead of Brentford? Were we level on points with Brentford, but we just finished ahead on one goal difference?
Level on points, I think, because they drew.
Right, so we finished ahead of Brentford. We finished in a European spot on goal difference, right? So my most pivotal moment of the season was Bart Verbruggen's stoppage time penalty save at home to Brentford in November. Because if that did not happen, Brentford would have finished above us and they would be in Europe ahead of us.
That is a great shout. And what was your additional award before we go into player of the season?
Your favourite away end you've been in this year as a Brighton fan, like the best away, like the best atmosphere we've brought somewhere this year.
Oh, that's a good question. So I think before people are like, "Oh, how didn't you pick this game?" I missed Leeds and Newcastle. I missed Man United in the Cup. I missed Man City. I missed Liverpool in the Cup. I missed Brentford. And I missed Forest and Barnsley. So I've missed 8 away games there. That's a very good question. I feel like Chelsea was only good when we were winning.
Yeah.
Or when we got a goal back. So that was only for like 20 minutes. Albeit like wonderful away atmosphere. Do you know what? That's a very good question. I'm going to again have to give it to Sunderland away.
Yeah.
Like the amount of fans we brought there, and bear in mind after that game, Sunderland were like, considering the distance these guys have had to go and the reputation we've heard, that they're just like, oh, they were the best fans we've seen at the Stadium of Light so far. We were constantly making noise.
Yeah.
Very long way to go as well. I think I went out the night before that game with Donovan, and had to get up in 5 hours when I got home. Left at 5 a.m. A lot of fans had to stay over, like I did in Newcastle. It was an amazing. It was a big commitment, but an amazing effort. Glad we got the award. It was a very good day out. So Sunderland away was the best I have seen of Brighton fans away. Not ever, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely would have to agree with you that Sunderland's up there. I think, conversations could even be had about Oxford in the cup at the start of the year. That was,
Oh, I forgot
for
Oxford.
me, that was a
Yeah,
that was a very impressive away end, especially for a Carabao Cup round 2 or 3 or whatever it was. That was really impressive. But for me, I think despite the result, it does have to go to our away end at Leeds. I mean, obviously the stakes were so high, and it was a very important game.
bear in mind the result. They scored in the 96th minute, so
Yeah,
the whole game was 0-0. So the result is like not a massive bearing on that.
no, no. Uh, so the atmosphere was incredible, especially from our lot. An incredible atmosphere from Brighton. Once again at Ellen Road does show that we are better than most people give us credit for. So for me, I'm going to go Leeds for that one.
Yes, I've somehow never been to Ellen Road. It seems to every single time fall on the weekend, which I can't do. Hopefully next year I tick Ellen Road off along with the 3 new grounds because I haven't been to Ipswich, haven't been to Coventry, and I haven't been to Hull. So I've got 4 new grounds next year if all works out. But here we go. This is the big one. It
Yeah,
is player of the season time,
yeah.
and I'm going to let you go with your top 3 first.
Right. Third place player of the season for me. I will give it to Danny Welbeck for third. At his age, he is aging like a fine wine. Once again, scoring more than 10 goals in the Premier League is a joke. I mean, he just looks better than ever, and his goals are so crucial to what we do. So Danny Welbeck's third for me. Second place, I'm going Pascal Gross. I mean, if he was here for the full year, he'd win the whole thing. But he wasn't. I mean, the results changed. The performances certainly changed, and his leadership as well as his quality on the pitch, just yeah, completely revitalized this team. But my player of the season, we touched on him a bit earlier, is Ferdy Kadioglu. Just God, levels above absolutely everyone this year. He's been incredible. I mean, he's been, in my opinion, one of the only nailed-on starters every week in this team. Like, it's very difficult for us to have a nailed-on starter week in, week out. But for me, Ferdy Kadioglu has just been incredible. We didn't get to see much of him last year due to the injury. But my word, this year he has been unbelievable. So yeah, for me, Kadioglu, my player of the season.
Yes, 3 good shouts and 3 players who I have in my top 3, but we'll see what order they go in. So I'm going to put Pascal Gross in third. I feel like he has been an amazing player, as we touched on, basically for the reasons I thought he was the most pivotal moment, but because he hasn't
Yeah,
been here for the full season, I don't feel like I can give him player of the season. In second, I have gone with Ferdy Kadioglu, for the reasons you mentioned there. He's just been an incredible player, great recovery from injury. Couldn't really fault him this season. But I'm going to give my player of the season to Danny Welbeck because not only is he like Ferdy, I feel like he's a nailed on player in the team sheet. He, he's quality in his position where, as you've mentioned, he scored more than 10 goals. That goal at Man United in the FA Cup, his finish at Chelsea, I thought was amazing. The goal against Newcastle, like I can just keep on going with the goals Welbeck scored this season. But I feel like the one quality he has brought over Ferdy is the leadership,
yeah,
and I think he won Player of the Season this year in the club awards. And that's down to his leadership, and it's leadership which we've needed because we did go through a rough patch this season, as we know. And it was players like Danny Welbeck who helped us through that tough time when the tough run started in December. If you're sat in the changing room at Liverpool away and you're turning to someone who is an amazing player and someone who's going to lead you, I just think they're going to go to Welbs over
yeah,
third.
yeah, yeah.
So I think for all those reasons, He's an amazing player, like Ferdy, in his position. He's an amazing player for the team. But I just think Danny Welbeck and his leadership qualities helped us this season. And so I'm going to give it to Danny Welbeck.
The leadership is a very important quality. And
Player of the season, Danny Welbeck. Ladies and gentlemen, well done. We're going to go back to August 2025 at the start of the season, where I predicted that we'd come 7th. I put it on our WhatsApp group, so I was one off. It wasn't too bad.
I said 6th at the start of the year. So we were both there or thereabouts. We both predicted European qualification at the start of the year. I mean, it was the aim of the whole year. There was talks before the season started, all the players coming in saying that the reason they chose Brighton over other projects was due to the ambition and the target for European qualification. So we got there, but let's have a think about the roller coaster that got us there, which was this season. So the season started off quite poorly.
Season started off with very similar negative themes to last season, where we couldn't hold on to a lead. So Fulham conceded 90 plus 6th minute, and I didn't want to look too deeply into it, but it's kind of like that's a problem we had last season, turning off a bit too early. Everton away. Look, I don't think we were ever going to win that game.
No.
Like, the atmosphere was incredible for most of it, not all of the game, but most of it. It's not like we went down with a fight at Everton away. And I feel like there are a few too many games this season where we just went that, like Arsenal away in the Cup was horrendous. That was a wasted chance, in my opinion. We could have gone on a bit of a run in that trophy. If you bear in mind, we would have had Crystal Palace in the next round, who were absolutely knackered from fixture congestion. We wasted a chance there. And then we had Man City at home, which is great. Although I do feel like early on in the season, we had 3 games there: Fulham at home, Everton away, and Man City at home, which kind of told the story of our season up until March, where it's like we either have an incredible fight and, come back, we just don't show up at all, or we switch off too early.
Yeah, I do completely agree with you. If you look at games, between the sort of October to March period, Liverpool away, both of them just went without even a fight. You look at Everton at home going 1-0 up and conceding in the 96th. You look at Fulham away going 1-0 up and conceding in the 96th. You look at Palace where we just didn't even try. Like those kind of games, you look at them and you think, you're always going to get a mixed bag with us this year.
Yeah, I do feel like this is something which needs to be addressed, though. So I am in support of the manager, very much in support of the manager now. There were bits, and you can listen to the previous podcast episodes. I think after the Arsenal Cup game and the Man United game, I lost my head at him a bit. After the Palace game, I was like, yeah, this guy's done now. And he's brought it back. Fair play to him. However, if we have the winter, which we had this summer, that deal's got to be cut short, in my opinion. Because I feel like if it happened in 24-25, we were like, look, he's settling in. He's a new young manager. He's bound to make mistakes. And we still got 8th in that season. And actually, we did better in last season than we did this season.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he's done amazing to turn it around this season. But I feel like when we were sat at Palace at home and we were at Villa away, there were people who were there and they were like, we are a genuine threat that we could be in the Championship.
I was one of those people, and I will admit it now. I, at various points over the season, called for the manager's head, completely lost my head at the way not only him, but even higher up at the club were running their sort of business. As much as Pascal Gross was an incredible signing, with that being the only signing we made in January, especially in the middle of that tragic run, I was a bit like, well, it might not even just be the manager. However, he has turned it around. Although I do have a point to make about it as well, is that if we slip into another one of those runs again, the 2 runs where we've been on that have been shocking like that, it has taken the fan base to completely turn on him for him to then take it back to basics and start picking up points
Yeah.
again. Now, we can't have another situation where we go 12, 13, 14 games, without winning, or on a 15-game run like we did in sort of December, January. I think the next time that run happens, I do think that will be it. But I am all for the manager having the job. I was very, very excited with him getting the new deal. I think he is the man to take us forward. And to be honest, I don't think we are going to have another one of those runs again. I do back him, and I back the board sort of transfer strategy this summer to really recruit.
I don't think it will. I don't think the run will be as drastic.
No.
So that's good. The season was
Yeah.
literally different game by game. The season was totally different. The Chelsea game, we were like, oh my god, like Champions League is so possible. Newcastle game, it was off. We played terribly. And then Wolves, it's back on again. Leeds, it was questionable. And so, literally every single game of this season, I do feel like that's for every team. Because of just how tight the league has been this year. I think like Crystal Palace are only safe of relegation with like 2 or 3 games to go.
Yeah.
Like Newcastle are only safe of relegation with 3 games to go. It's just been such a tight league this year. But every single game, I feel like we've been in a different position. Which makes it does actually make it quite hard to analyse the season when it's like that.
Yeah.
Like, because when we beat Brentford, we were 14th, and then we went to like 11th, I think, in one game, and it's like all of a sudden we've gone from a serious threat of slipping away to all of a sudden we're looking up at the European places again. It's just been a mental season, and the March run, something must have happened. They must have had a board meeting between Liverpool and Brentford, because he came out of his shell. Like that Arsenal game, even though we lost, the passion Fabian showed was superb, and him coming out in the press and actually calling out Arsenal, which we know a lot of managers want to do, but they don't. Fab actually did it. And so he's done very well to turn the season around. I do feel that there were some points where he was harshly critiqued. I can think of a few off the top of my head. I feel like West Ham away slightly.
Yeah.
I mean, in the first half we got it wrong. In the second half, we did control the game, but there were people there who were like, "Oh, this is all Hurtzler's fault," and it's like, no, it's not, man. Like when we played Burnley, Man City, Man United, and that was a bit stop-start because of the referee. So even though that was in what we deem as a terrible run, like those 4 games there, it was like, okay, like he's turning this around. And I know we then went to Fulham, and arguably we could have been 2-1 up, and we ended up losing. But he has been harshly critiqued at times, to be fair, Hurts.
Yeah.
Although I do feel like the majority was right at times. So after the Bournemouth game, there weren't a lot of people criticising him, but after the Fulham game, there were people who were rightly criticising him.
Yeah.
So if I was to give this season a number, it's just been so different, and I don't want to give it a 5 out of 10, because really that's kind of what it is, because it's like you just never knew this season. But I'm going to be generous. We got the aim, which was Europe. I mean, technically the aim was top 5, but I'm not going to be that critical, because I do think that was an outside chance to begin with. But I do feel like if we didn't make mistakes earlier on in the season, I mean, everyone makes mistakes, but we did repeat a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
If we didn't make mistakes, that goal was achievable. So I'm going to give this season a 7. Yeah, 7 out of 10 for this season.
I sort of on the same sort of lines as you. I mean, the game was top 5. I mean, I think the expectation was definitely top 8, and that's what we did. So, and it does just show the direction that the club's gone in. I mean, before 2022-23, the club had never finished in the top 8 in the Premier League. Our highest finish was 9th, and that was under Potter. But since then, in 22-23, 24-25, and 25-26, the club have finished in the top 8 in the Premier League 3 out of the last 4 seasons and qualified for Europe in 2 of those. And if it wasn't for them lot up the road winning the cup last year, we would have qualified for Europe then too. So for me, it does show that the club, we're here to stay, and we're here to be in the European conversation for a long, long time to come for now. And the expectation was top 8 this year. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think I'm edging towards 6, maybe 7. But it's been an up and down season. There's been some really high points, and if we did end up sneaking into that top 5, it would have been definitely an 8 or 9 out of 10. But it just shows you of how close the league is. Really, anyone could have finished anywhere between sort of 6th and 14th. So the fact we did get there in the end, albeit on goal difference, and not the way we wanted to, European qualification cannot be overlooked. So yeah, I'm obviously overall very, very happy about the season still. And it's just a chance for us to go and win a trophy next year. We have to. I know obviously we've not won any trophies before other than the 1912 Community Shield. But anyway, we have to win the Conference League next year. We have to.
There you go. I'm going to be a bit of a doom cloud. I don't actually think we're going to win it. I think Atalanta. Although I think we're going to go on a Carabao Cup run. I just have a feeling, because I feel like there's something with the third round draw, isn't there, that we can only get a team below us.
Yeah, we can't play another team in Europe.
And I look at some of the teams that got through last time. It's like Crystal Palace, we are better than now. Than we were in February. Admittedly, in February they were better than us, but I do feel like we are better than them now. Brentford did the double over. Newcastle, 9 times out of 10 we normally beat them. So while the Conference League I don't think we'll win, I do feel like we need to focus on like the English competitions just as much. Like Marco Silva's announced that he's leaving Fulham.
Yeah.
So we've got Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Chelsea. They've already found a manager, but Chelsea. You got Liverpool, Man City, Man United have only just announced Carrick permanently. You've got Spurs who are about to have a first full season under De Zerbi. They're in for a roller coaster ride. But we've got Liverpool now as well, with Arne Slot leaving. We've got about half the league who need to transition and they need to change, and they're going to have to get used to new tactics. And a lot of them are in European competition, like Crystal Palace, Bournemouth. Like other than Spurs and Fulham, I think every team I mentioned are in a European competition.
Yeah.
Other than Man City and Bournemouth, a lot of the teams who are getting new managers weren't great last year. So I do feel like if we get this summer right, we get the right amount of depth so we can manage 4 competitions at once potentially, we can really take advantage of next season and we can get Europe again. We can definitely come in the top 8 again. But I feel like if we take advantage of this summer and we, set ourselves above the rest, we're already used to Fabian. This is going to be our 3rd season with him, and half the league are about to have their first season with a new manager. Bear in mind, we've got Hull coming up as well, who have got a manager who's never managed in the Premier League. Kieran McKenna's only been here once. Frank Lampard's the only manager coming up with a bit of experience. So we've got so many teams. Oh, a load of teams are going to have new managers next season. A load of teams are going to have to get used to new routines and new sort of stuff like that. So it plays into our favour, basically. The only team you could kind of say, well, they've had the manager for half a year is Man United. But it plays into teams like our favour. Like we can really give next season a go if we get this summer right and we get in the right players and we're still able to maintain the league form and we don't do what we did under De Zerbi, which is where we just completely collapsed.
Yeah.
You know, we really can push for Europa League qualification and better next year, and we can push for a trophy, whether that's the Conference League, the League Cup, the FA Cup. You know, we can do shit next season.
I completely agree with you.
In our 125th season, if we get it right, we have to get it right. But if we do, we can go places.
Yeah. Now, this is going to sound completely outrageous to you, especially considering we've not won a trophy before in our history. But there is just this little niggle in me, right? This little itch that I need to scratch, right? I think we're winning 2 trophies and qualifying for Europe in terms of league form next year.
Oh, don't know. I think we can win 1. I do think we can win 1. I don't know about 2.
I think we've got 2. I think we've got 2 in us next year. I'll tell you why. Because the Conference League next season is a lot stronger than it was this season. The teams in it next season are a lot better than the teams that are in it this year.
It has got Europa League winners of 2024 in Atalanta.
It's got Atalanta, Ajax. It's got who else? Braga in it. They were in the Europa League this year. Copenhagen are in it. You know, it is a strong Conference League. However, in the league phase, which takes up most of the first half of the year up until January, I do think that we would be able to rotate in 75% of those games and still get results and get through. Because obviously you need to come in the top 24, but ideally the top 8 to avoid having to play an extra round. So, for me, I think we can afford to rotate in that competition while still keeping good league form. But as well as that, that competition overlaps with the Carabao Cup, which is a tournament you also said earlier about us targeting. I have a feeling we will go on a Carabao Cup run next year, which does end with us being at Wembley. As well as that, I think we'll win the Carabao Cup and the Conference League. I think we've got both in us next season.
Yes,
I think we can finish in the top 7.
So I have a feeling we're going to come across Atalanta at some point and get knocked out of the Conference League. I don't know why. I do feel like the Carabao Cup we have a very big chance with. I do feel like if we win the Carabao Cup, this happened with Newcastle. If we get to the Carabao Cup final, we'll get knocked out of the FA Cup. So I feel like there's a trophy in us. And if we get the summer right, we'll finish in the top 7. And this sounds very highly ambitious, but it's possible. I mean, what do you need to get in the top 7 this year? Like 56 points? It's only one more point than we got this year.
To finish top 7, you need 54 points this year.
54 points. So one more point than we needed this year. And when we came 9th, we got 51.
Yeah.
So it's doable. It's doable if we get it right.
Yeah.
This is going to be like the wrap up of the episode, the wrap up of the podcast for the year, and looking forward to the future bit. So in December, we were on a bad run of form. It was looking like things were starting to go off the rails, and Paul Barber announced something about a fan wall, which I know many people have plaques and stones on. And he announced that he wanted to get rid of all those plaques and stones, and he wanted to make fans pay again to add on to the fan wall. And I remember this. It was mid-December. It was just after the Liverpool game, and fans felt then that we were about to lose the club we'd grown up with. Like if you started going to games from 1994 onwards, Brighton has always been a close together club which has fought for everything they have today,
Yeah,
basically. And Paul Barber, at one point, we feared was basically we thought the together bit of the club was gone.
yeah,
We did. But we then progressed through the season. The managers turned and started to become a bit more inspirational, and he connected with the fans. He started doing the whole fist bumps, which, I don't really like. But, if it gets him connected with the fans, I'm all for it. And he got that connection. The fans started coming back, and they are more popular. And there is still going to be a fan wall, but we still had our plaques, and the atmosphere got better as performances got better. The whole feel of the club went from really low to really high. And one people who I am going to shout out for maintaining this amazing level of support for the club, even in the lowest of lows, is Dogma. I feel like Dogma this year have been absolutely brilliant in bringing the club together. Like their analysis of every game. Like, I don't know if you've seen it. They do like a "this is
yeah,
what we learnt" post after every game. I think those are like incredible at bringing people together and talking about the game. They're also quite humorous, which I
yeah,
quite like. But Dogma have done amazingly this season. And when we thought the club was just dropping the whole together thing with that fan wall, Dogma was straight on it, and they were like, this cannot happen. And within 2 days, the power of the fans, as it's always been, things got overturned.
yeah,
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that we now sit in May where we're back in European football. The under-21s won a trophy. They won the Premier League 2 playoff. Our women's team, incredible, in the FA Cup final. I mean, they lost it 4-0, but still, like, I read something on We Are Brighton where it was like 50 years ago, the women's team played in the Sunday League, Sussex Sunday. The only person who watched them was the goalkeeper's dad. And
yeah,
now we're playing at Wembley. And I was on the way to the cup final, and I was sat on the train going to Victoria, and it was filled with Arsenal fans, and I was just looking around, and they're all living in Sussex, and it's like, you don't know what you're missing up the road. Like,
mm,
this club, when we thought the story was over with the whole togetherness thing, and we thought we were just going to become another one of those clubs who just disregards their fans in December, this half of the year, 2026, it has been incredible.
yeah,
Like, the fact we now have a successful men's, women's, and academy,
yeah,
it's just, there's just like not a better time to support the football club. And I
no,
hope, especially at Wembley on Sunday, if we left, there are 43,000 people there, and a lot of them were neutrals. I'd say about 20,000 of the people there were neutrals. If one of those 20,000 left Wembley going, I'm going to support Brighton from now on, or I'm just going to support Brighton women from now on, or I'm going to support Brighton as a whole from now on, we succeeded that day.
yeah,
Like, the club, like, this feels like a massive cliche sort of thing because we say it all the time, and we said it in 97 when we got back to 15, we said it in the Premier League, but this does still only feel like the beginning of
yeah,
what could be really special. And it feels very fitting that it's done in 125 years of the club. Weirdly, it seems planned. I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it's just coincidental that it's happened this year. But from where we were, and we thought we were going to lose what was so special about the club, it feels that now, we're in the Conference League, and people can slag the Conference League off respectfully. Don't buy a ticket for the games. Like, we
yeah,
want people who were there, who are going to enjoy it, who are going to embrace it, who are going to be grateful that we're there. We now have a women's team who are cup finalists, and that won't be their last final. I can see them making the FA Cup final again. We got an amazing academy who are now trophy winners, with some amazing young players in there. Most of them from Sussex as well, which is really rare. Like, there are not a lot of academies where a lot of their players in that team are homegrown. Like,
Yeah.
we've got some amazing footballers in Sussex. I'm lucky enough to be mates with some of them. Finn Cooper, Fraser Widdop. I've mentioned them quite a few times on the podcast, but I'll give them a
Yeah.
shout out. Amazing players, and we are very lucky that they're in our academy. And they come from places like Helsham and Coldine. You know, they are Sussex players. And the men's team in the Conference League, like, there is not a better time to support the club as a whole at the moment in terms of every single thing is going right. And in December, this wasn't imaginable.
No,
And
no,
how
definitely not.
much
And
6
even as
months
late
can
as February, it was still. We basically earlier that month we'd lost at home to Palace, right? We lost away to Villa, and we lost 3-0 to Liverpool in the cup, right? After that, after that point in the year, we were sat 14th, 6 points ahead of the relegation zone, one win in 15, everything going tits up, right? At that point in the season, as late as Valentine's Day, where we are now was, completely out of sight. I do think it is only the start again. I think this club always strives for higher. There is no ceiling, and we've seen it before where people who think there's a ceiling, they don't last very long at the club. I do think the sky is the limit for this club, and I do think that, we aren't far away from seeing this club really, really make a name for itself, not only in England but in Europe.
yeah,
And I do think we,
got
we,
to
we
you
are
got to
not
join the
far away
ride.
from being a European mainstay.
If you went to that Arsenal parade from Sussex and you thought, oh, I might go and support Arsenal now, you shouldn't. Don't do that, because you've got an amazing club up the road where you can be there every week. You'll feel part of the club, sorry, and you just don't know what you're missing at the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
As far as I'm concerned, it's the first season of the podcast, so thank you very much for doing it with me this year, Archie. We will obviously be back, and we will be much more regular next year. Apologies for the sort of inconsistency with episodes coming out, but I do promise that next year, not only is the sky the limit for the team, the sky is the limit for this podcast. So thank you very much to anyone who's contributed to this podcast throughout this season, and we cannot wait to see you for fixture release day on the 19th of June. Will be the next episode where we will go through
yes.
very early season predictions.
Also, before we do go, some pre-season news. So we heard today the rumour that Roma are coming back. Stud-proof vests at the ready for the return of Roma. I heard a rumour today that apparently we have got a training camp in Holland. Not sure how reliable that is, because I've also heard a rumour that we're going to Geneva in Switzerland. Don't know about any open or closed doors games. And a rumour is that we might be playing FC Barcelona at the Amex. They're playing Birmingham. We thought it might have been us, but apparently they are going to choose a behind closed doors friendly at St George's Park against Watford or Stoke instead. So we'll have to see. But Roma looks all but confirmed. Barcelona maybe a bit of an outside shout, but it might be. And maybe a camp in Europe in sunny Holland or Geneva. So that's the current pre-season murmurs. I have made a thread on North Stand chat. Normally AZ Goal does it, and if he does the other thread, you should follow his, because he is much better at documenting information than I am. But if you want to know any pre-season information, I have got a thread running on North Stand chat.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Archie. And just to say thank you to anyone who supported us throughout this year. The support and love on the podcast really does mean the world, and we promise that we'll be much more consistent, and there will be much more exciting sort of episodes and more exciting things to get involved with in terms of this podcast next year. There are already plans in the works for what we're going to improve on next year, but they will all be revealed in due course. But is there anything you want to say to wrap up for the first ever season of the podcast, Archie? Thank you very much to anyone who's made it this far. Once again, and we will see you in June for fixture release day.